Kylie. How's your morning going?
Pretty good. I was just thinking about something that happens to me all the time. How about you?
I'm doing great, thanks. So what were you thinking about?
Well, I was thinking about those moments when someone is talking to you and you just don't understand what they're saying.
Oh man, yeah, that happens to everyone.
Right? And it's so awkward because you don't want to seem rude, but you really have no idea what they just said.
Exactly. And sometimes you just smile and nod, hoping they weren't asking you a question.
Yes, I've done that so many times. But then sometimes they were asking a question and you just smiled, and it gets even more awkward.
Oh no, that's the worst. So maybe we should talk about this today. Like what to say when you don't understand someone.
I think that's a perfect topic, especially for people learning English. This is something everyone struggles with.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, so let me introduce myself first. My name is Kylie, and I'm from Texas. I love talking to people, but I'll be honest, sometimes I don't catch what people say, especially if they talk really fast.
I totally get that. Hi, everyone. I'm Jordan from California. And even though English is my first language, there are still times when I don't understand what someone says. Maybe they mumbled, or there was background noise, or they used a word I didn't know.
Yes, that happens to me too. And I think people forget that even native speakers don't understand everything all the time.
Exactly. So if you're learning English and you don't understand something, don't feel bad about it. It's completely normal.
That's such an important point. Don't feel embarrassed.
Right. So today, let's talk about what you can say when you don't understand. There are lots of polite ways to ask for clarification.
I love it. Let's get started.
So, Kylie, let me ask you this. What's the most common situation where you don't understand what someone says?
Hmm. I think it's when someone talks really fast, like they're excited about something and they just start talking super quickly.
Oh, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. When people get excited, they speed up.
Right. And then all the words just blend together, and I'm like, wait, what did you just say?
Yeah, it's like they're speaking a different language, even though it's still English.
Exactly. So, what do you usually say when that happens?
Well, I usually say something like, I'm sorry, could you say that again? You were talking a little fast.
Oh, that's good. You're polite about it, and you explain why you didn't understand.
Right. I think it's important to be polite, but also honest. People usually don't realize they're talking fast.
That's true. And most people don't mind repeating themselves if you ask nicely.
Exactly. So that's the first tip. Don't be afraid to ask people to repeat themselves.
Okay, so let's talk about different phrases you can use. What are some ways to ask someone to repeat what they said?
Good question. So the most common one is probably, I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Right, that's very polite and clear.
You could also say, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Oh, I like that one. I didn't catch that is a really natural phrase.
Yeah, it's casual, but still polite. Another one is, sorry, what was that?
That's good for more casual situations, like with friends.
Exactly. Or you could say, could you say that again, please?
All of these are great. I think the key is to start with I'm sorry or excuse me to be polite.
Right. That shows you're not being rude or dismissive. You genuinely want to understand.
Okay, so what about when someone heard what they said, but you don't understand the meaning?
Oh, that's different. That's when they might have used a word or a phrase you don't know.
Right, like maybe they used slang or an idiom.
Exactly. So in that case, you need to ask for clarification in a different way.
What do you mean?
Well, instead of asking them to repeat it, you might say, I'm sorry, what does that mean?
Oh, that's a good one. Direct but polite.
Right. Or you could say, I'm not familiar with that phrase. Could you explain it?
I like that. You're being honest that you don't know it.
Exactly. Another option is, I'm sorry, I don't understand what you mean by that.
That's really clear. You're telling them exactly what the problem is.
Right. And most people will be happy to explain.
You know, I think sometimes people are afraid to admit they don't understand because it makes them look stupid.
Oh, absolutely. That's a common fear.
But actually, I think asking for clarification makes you look smart.
I totally agree. It shows you're paying attention and you want to understand properly.
Right. It's much better to ask than to pretend you understand and then do something wrong later.
Oh, yeah, that can lead to all kinds of problems.
Exactly. So don't be afraid to speak up and ask for help.
Great advice. And I think people appreciate it when you ask questions. It shows you care about what they're saying.
Okay, so let's talk about some specific situations. What if you're in a loud place, like a restaurant or a party?
Oh, that's tough. Background noise makes everything harder to hear.
Right. So what would you say in that situation?
I might say, I'm sorry, it's really loud in here. Could you speak a little louder?
That's good. You're explaining why you can't hear.
Or you could say, sorry, I can't hear you very well. Can we move somewhere quieter?
Oh, I like that solution. Sometimes it's better to just change the environment.
Exactly. Or you could lean in closer and say, sorry, what did you say? I couldn't hear you over the noise.
All good options. The key is to acknowledge the noise so they know it's not your fault.
Right. It takes the pressure off you.
What about when someone has a strong accent? That can make it harder to understand.
Yeah, that's a sensitive topic. You want to be respectful.
Exactly. You don't want to offend them.
Right. So I think you just focus on the fact that you didn't understand, not on their accent.
What do you mean?
Like, instead of saying, I don't understand your accent, you could say, I'm sorry. Could you say that more slowly?
Oh, that's much better. You're not mentioning the accent at all.
Right. Or you could say, I'm sorry. I'm having trouble understanding. Could you repeat that?
That's respectful. You're not blaming them.
Exactly. And most people will naturally slow down or enunciate better when you ask.
And honestly, if you're learning English, the other person might also be learning, so you're in the same boat.
That's a great point. Everyone's doing their best.
Okay, here's another situation. What if someone is using technical language or jargon that you don't understand?
Oh, yeah, like at work or in a professional setting.
Right. Let's say you're in a meeting and someone uses a bunch of acronyms or technical terms.
That happens a lot, and it can be really confusing.
So what would you say?
I think I'd say, I'm sorry, could you explain what that acronym means? Or, I'm not familiar with that term. Could you clarify?
Those are both really professional and polite.
Right. And in a work setting, it's actually really important to speak up if you don't understand.
Why is that?
Because if you don't understand and you don't ask, you might make mistakes or miss important information.
That's true. It's better to ask now than to mess up later.
Exactly. And usually other people in the meeting are also confused but afraid to ask. So you might be helping everyone.
Oh, I love that point. You could be the hero of the meeting.
Exactly. The hero who asks the questions everyone else is thinking.
So let's talk about body language for a second, because I think that can help too.
Oh, absolutely. Body language is really important.
Right. Like if you have a confused look on your face, people will usually realize you didn't understand.
That's true. Facial expressions can communicate a lot.
But I think it's still better to say something rather than just look confused.
I agree, because sometimes people might not notice your expression, especially if they're focused on what they're saying.
Right. So combining body language with words is probably the best approach.
Exactly. Like you might tilt your head a little, look slightly confused, and say, I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand that.
Perfect. You're using both verbal and nonverbal communication. Okay, here's something I struggle with. What if you didn't understand, but the person has already moved on to a different topic?
Oh, that's tricky. That happens sometimes.
Right, like they said something, you didn't understand it, but then they kept talking, and now you're on a completely different subject.
Yeah, and you feel like it's too late to go back and ask.
Exactly. So, what do you do in that situation?
I think it depends on how important it is.
What do you mean?
Well, if it was something important, I think you should politely interrupt and go back to it.
How would you do that?
You could say, I'm sorry to interrupt, but could we go back for a second? I didn't understand what you said about the topic.
Oh, that's good. You're acknowledging the interruption but explaining why.
Right, and most people will appreciate that you want to understand properly.
What if it wasn't that important?
Then you might just let it go. You can't catch everything, and that's okay.
That's fair. Sometimes you have to prioritize. All right, let's talk about some more casual phrases. What if you're talking to a close friend?
Oh, with a close friend, you can be more relaxed about it.
Right, you don't have to be as formal.
Exactly. You might just say, wait, what? Or, huh? Say that again?
Yeah, those are super casual.
Right. Or you could say, hold on, I didn't get that. Or, run that by me again?
Run that by me again is a great phrase. It sounds really natural.
Yeah, it's very common among native speakers.
What about just saying, what do you mean?
That works too, but you have to be careful with your tone.
Why is that?
Because what do you mean can sound a little defensive or challenging if you say it the wrong way.
Oh, I see. Like if you say it sharply, it might sound like you're questioning them.
Exactly, but if you say it with a confused or curious tone, it's fine.
Tone really matters.
It does. Tone can change the entire meaning of a sentence.
Okay, so let's do some examples. I'll say something, and you tell me what you'd say if you didn't understand. Sound good?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay, here we go. So I was thinking we could grab some grub and then catch a flick downtown before heading back to my pad.
Okay, there's a lot of slang in there. I'd probably say, hold on, what do you mean by grab some grub and catch a flick?
Perfect. You're asking about the specific phrases you don't know.
Right, and then you could explain that grab some grub means get some food, and catch a flick means watch a movie.
Exactly. Okay, here's another one. I'm gonna bounce. I'll catch you later.
Okay, so if I didn't know that slang, I might say, I'm sorry, what does bounce mean in this context?
Great. You'd learn that bounce means leave or go.
Right. These examples show why it's important to ask when you don't understand slang.
Absolutely. Slang can be really confusing.
Okay, let me give you a scenario. Someone just gave you really complicated directions and you're completely lost.
Oh, I hate that. Directions are so hard sometimes.
Right? So what would you say?
I think I'd say, I'm sorry, that was a lot of information. Could you go over it again more slowly?
That's perfect. You're acknowledging it was complicated.
Or I might say, I'm sorry, I'm a little confused. Could you break it down for me?
Break it down is a great phrase. It means to explain it in simpler steps.
Right. Or you could say, could you write that down for me?
Oh, that's smart. Visual information can be easier to understand than verbal.
Exactly. Sometimes seeing it written helps a lot.
You know, I think we should talk about something else. What if you're in a situation where you can't ask for clarification?
What do you mean? Like, when would that happen?
Well, let's say you're watching a movie or listening to a podcast and you don't understand something.
Oh, I see. You can't exactly ask the TV to repeat itself.
Right. So what do you do in that situation?
Well, if it's a video, you could pause and rewind it.
Exactly. You can watch it again, maybe with subtitles.
Subtitles are so helpful for language learners.
They really are. You can see the words while hearing them, which helps with understanding.
Right. What if you're in a live situation, though, like a lecture or a presentation?
Then you might just have to let it go in the moment and ask questions later.
That's true. Most presentations have a Q&A session at the end.
Right. Or you could approach the speaker afterward and say, I didn't understand this part. Could you explain it?
That's a good solution. Most speakers are happy to clarify. Okay, let's talk about mishearing versus not understanding. Those are different, right?
Yes, that's a great distinction. Mishearing is when you heard the words, but you heard them wrong.
Right. Like maybe you thought they said cat, but they actually said hat.
Exactly. Not understanding is when you heard the words correctly, but you don't know what they mean.
So, how do you handle mishearing?
I think you'd say, I'm sorry, did you say cat or hat?
Right, you're confirming what you heard.
Or you could say, just to make sure I heard you correctly, did you say...
Oh, that's good. You're double checking.
Right, it's better to confirm than to assume.
Absolutely. Misunderstandings can lead to all kinds of problems. So, Jordan, what's your biggest tip for people who are learning English and struggling to understand?
I think my biggest tip is don't be afraid to admit you don't understand.
That's so important.
Right, because if you pretend to understand when you don't, you're not really learning or communicating.
That's true. You're just creating more confusion.
Exactly. So be honest. Say, I don't understand. Can you help me?
And most people will be happy to help.
Right. People generally want to be understood, so they'll try to explain better.
What about you? What's your biggest tip? I think my tip is to learn some key phrases for asking for clarification.
That's great advice.
Right. If you have these phrases ready, you won't panic when you don't understand.
Like having them in your back pocket.
Exactly. So practice saying things like, could you repeat that? Or, I don't understand, until they feel natural.
That's really practical advice. You know what else is helpful? Asking someone to use different words.
Oh, like paraphrasing?
Exactly. Sometimes, if someone explains something a different way, it clicks.
Right. So you might say, could you explain that in a different way? Or could you use simpler words?
Yes. Could you use simpler words is perfect for language learners.
And there's nothing wrong with asking for simpler language. Everyone has to start somewhere.
Absolutely. And honestly, sometimes simpler is better for everyone, not just language learners.
That's true. Some people use way too many complicated words when simple ones would work fine.
Right? Sometimes people are just trying to sound smart.
Okay, let's do a quick summary of all the phrases we've talked about today.
Good idea. So if you didn't hear what someone said, you can say, I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Or, I didn't catch that. Or, sorry, what was that?
Right. And if you heard it but don't understand the meaning, you can say, what does that mean? Or, I'm not familiar with that phrase. Or, I don't understand what you mean by that.
If you need them to slow down, you can say, could you say that more slowly? Or, that was a lot of information. Could you go over it again?
And if you want them to explain it in a different way, you can say, could you explain that in a different way? Or, could you use simpler words?
Yes. Could you use simpler words is perfect for language learners.
And there's nothing wrong with asking for simpler language. Everyone has to start somewhere.
Absolutely. And honestly, sometimes simpler is better for everyone, not just language learners.
That's true. Some people use way too many complicated words when simple ones would work fine.
Right? Sometimes people are just trying to sound smart.
Okay, let's do a quick summary of all the phrases we've talked about today.
Good idea. So if you didn't hear what someone said, you can say, I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Or, I didn't catch that. Or, sorry, what was that?
Right. And if you heard it but don't understand the meaning, you can say, what does that mean? Or, I'm not familiar with that phrase. Or, I don't understand what you mean by that.
If you need them to slow down, you can say, could you say that more slowly? Or, that was a lot of information. Could you go over it again?
And if you want them to explain it in a different way, you can say, could you explain that in a different way? Or, could you use simpler words?
Yes. Could you use simpler words is perfect for language learners.
And there's nothing wrong with asking for simpler language. Everyone has to start somewhere.
Absolutely. And honestly, sometimes simpler is better for everyone, not just language learners.
That's true. Some people use way too many complicated words when simple ones would work fine.
Right? Sometimes people are just trying to sound smart.
Okay, let's do a quick summary of all the phrases we've talked about today.
Good idea. So if you didn't hear what someone said, you can say, I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Or, I didn't catch that. Or, sorry, what was that?
Right. And if you heard it but don't understand the meaning, you can say, what does that mean? Or, I'm not familiar with that phrase. Or, I don't understand what you mean by that.
If you need them to slow down, you can say, could you say that more slowly? Or, that was a lot of information. Could you go over it again?
And if you want them to explain it in a different way, you can say, could you explain that in a different way? Or, could you use simpler words?
Yes. Could you use simpler words is perfect for language learners.
And there's nothing wrong with asking for simpler language. Everyone has to start somewhere.
Absolutely. And honestly, sometimes simpler is better for everyone, not just language learners.
That's true. Some people use way too many complicated words when simple ones would work fine.
Right? Sometimes people are just trying to sound smart.